finna get your ass the game, man. You know I break it down. Come on, man, you know it's Bain.
All right, yo, what's good, everybody? Welcome back to Bain, Break It Down Forex. It's your boy, Big Bain in this thing. And you guys guessed it, another week, another opportunity for us to make some money in the Forex market. So let's get right to it. All right, boom, over on the dollar, guys. So on Friday, right here, we had a major rise up on the dollar, but before that rise up, we fell heavily into this level of support that we see here, right? So a major drop, and then all of this was the pullback. Again, I was expecting this pullback to be a little earlier, right? So you can see it took all week, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, kept falling, and then finally on Friday, it did the retracement. I expected it to be a little earlier, like maybe Monday or Tuesday, hit the pullback and then get the drop. But so far, we've just got that retracement pullback or correction on Friday. All right, so it's kind of giving a little bit of a morning star, right, kind of feel, to where that represents a bullish reversal. All right, so saying all that to say that the dollar could possibly rise or continue rising or even reverse and switch from going down to up. All right, now again, looking at this like from a higher time frame, you know, and when we look left, right, we can see just a major support level that is currently at, that is respecting, and you can see we have a major wick rejection here on the weekly time frame. So we could, you know, we swept liquidity from these lows, and then we tapped into that swing low all the way in the back. So now we could start to rise up and potentially break above this area and start, you know, our new uptrend. So that's something to look out for on the dollar, because it does look bullish at the moment. But just know, when we go to like the 2-hour time frame, it's still bearish, right? We haven't gotten any official change of character to the upside for it to rise. So what could happen as we open out the week, right? The dollar could push up a little bit, take the liquidity that's sitting behind these highs, right? Tap into that fair value gap, possibly this one, or even up here at the supply. But basically give us a little push up, and then maybe a false break where it just keeps coming right back within the range and falling like it's been doing, right? It could definitely do that, right? So again, we're not out the gate from the dollar being bearish. We need to be more patient to see if the dollar will actually do something like this, which would be push up, coming back to respect this as support now, and then get more bull candles to show up from that point, right? With a situation like this, now we can say the dollar is going to rise more because the actual market structure has shifted, right? It has changed, right? And again, that's where a lot of people get lost. So, you know, I try to give you guys that as much as possible to make that light bulb come on, because once you can understand market structure, you cannot be tricked. You cannot be duped, right? You know what the market's going to do. It's just a matter of you waiting for it to do it. You get what I'm saying? So, you know, just keep that in mind. All right. But I'm still bearish on the dollar. All right. For now, until it gives me that change, that respect, and the bull show up. At that point, I'll be bullish. All right. So, bearish on the dollar for now, but definitely seeing how it reacts around this supply area. All right, moving over to the JPY index. All right, so me and the team have been back and forth, right? We've been stressing out, all right, about what the JPY is going to do. I obviously think it's going to rise. Now it very well may dip a little deeper, all right, when we begin the week. But, you know, I've heard through the grapevine, all right, that the yen or Japan or China or whatever, right, they're buying up, you know, the yen. So, you know, we're just gonna, you know, get in the mix of that, right, with that increasing their currency, right, and causing it to rise. But you know, just be careful for a potential sweep or a deeper retracement into this huge fair value gap, possibly tapping into this demand area and then taking off for the rise, right? But if we look at it on a higher time frame, right, let's say the daily, right, we can see that we were in a downtrend here, right? And then this major push up, it changed things, right? Again, what I talked about when we were looking at the dollar, just knowing how to identify market structure change is a game changer. All right, guys, so that whole downtrend that we had, that was over with. We pushed above this high. That was a change. We came back and we're respecting that same area that we broke, which is why I believe that we can rise right from where we currently are and just continue going higher. All right, because we had a run, we had a pullback. The next phase of a uptrend is the run. All right, so that's what I'll be looking for, on the JPY. And because of that, I'll be looking to sell pairs like CHF JPY, NZD JPY, GJ, AJ, EJ, CJ, right? All the J's, all right? That's what my team calls it. And, my team already sold CHF JPY and NZD JPY, right? AJ was also a very nice setup. They're all set up for a nice fall, right? But we just want to see some bulls show up from this potential area before, you kind of, put hot sauce on it, right? You know what I mean? Because it can still push down a little bit, which will cause the J's to rise, right? And, if you're selling, that's not good. But, if we can see some bulls show up, maybe it'll take one full day, right? So we'll get that Monday candle to paint, and maybe, it's bigger than this candle. And with something like that, we're definitely going to rise. You get what I'm saying? But it takes time for that to play out, and you guys need to be patient to see those kind of things play out. But my team did jump the gun just a little bit, right? We didn't put too much on it. But just in case this happens to rise right out the gate, then we're making, we're in profit pretty much, and pretty happy about it, right? But if we happen to lose, right, we'll just wait and things will set back up to where we get in for another sell, and then we'll win that for sure, right? But I am bullish on JPY and just watching out to see if it goes a little deeper before it turns bullish. All right, but I'm hoping it goes right out the gate so that I can make my moolah. All right, bullish on JPY. All right, moving over to odd dollar. All right, let's get higher. All right, odd dollar, ladies and gents, is very bullish. All right, well, it was, it rose up all last week. All right, from here to here, and that's about 200 pips. All right, and you can see took out this high and almost got to this high. So when we're looking at this on a lower time frame, we're seeing that the low from Thursday was broken on Friday. So we may be beginning that retracement, all right, where our dollar could get deeper into, somewhere in this run that it had, right? So it can start to, do one of these numbers and, right, just start going down, okay? And typically for that to fall, the dollar would be rising. But like I said, we don't really quite know yet if the dollar is, ready to rise, because it's still bearish. Therefore, right from where price is on odd dollar right now is actually a good place to potentially buy it from, right? With a position like maybe here at the low of Friday, all right, maybe even at the low of the week, right? With a position like this, because this is some equal lows, so we can have a liquidity sweep, right, into this area before we get the rise back up to this high, right? And that's 200 pips on the dot. All right, so again, if the dollar is going to be bearish, right, if it's going to respect the zone, the supply zone that it has, and it drops, then the odd dollar will definitely rise. All right, so for now, because we haven't gotten much to the downside in terms of this new retracement or pullback, I'm going to expect the odd dollar to rise as I expect the dollar to fall. So I'm bullish on the odd dollar. All right, that'll be the same for euro dollar. Everything that I mentioned, same exact thing. We're already in that area of where we potentially want to buy from. So position like this, you know, try to figure out how you want to, you know, place your stop loss, right? Whether it's below the swing, you know, or something like how you see I have it, and, you know, take the trade, right? But again, all with confirmation on what the dollar is showing you, which takes time to develop. So don't just rush into it. Let the chart tell you what it's doing first, and then you make a move. All right. Bullish on euro dollar. All right, pound dollar, same exact thing. So I'll just pick the position. All right, something just like this. And I'm already at a 1 to 2, 36 pips for 105, and I'm not even aiming for the high. But if I aim for the high, right, the previous day or the previous week, I'm looking at over 200 pips on pound dollar. All right, I'm bullish. All right, New Zealand dollar, same exact thing. All right, so won't have to talk your head off on that, guys, but you see what it is. All right, nice position like that. Dollar CAD. All right, so again, the dollar is looking bearish, but for the dollar CAD, it looks bullish. As a matter of fact, we broke the previous day high, that Thursday high. We broke it on Friday significantly. Now, you know, this is all still down, but we did have a change from a lower time frame. So as we look at the 4 hour, all right, this is very important. And then, you know, get a little lower because I want you guys to see the structure. So here is a high that broke a low. All right, so the low that it broke was pretty much, you know, right about here. All right, so a high point pushed down and broke below this low point, right, making that a strong high. Then we turn around, right, we make a higher low, and then we push up and break above this lower high, which shows us that the market structure has shifted, guys, from down, run, pull back, run, pull back, run, pull back, run, pull back. But then here we get that higher low, and then we get that new higher high, breaking above this high, giving us a change from down to up. Okay, this is very, very important. So now with that huge imbalance that it has here, right next to what we would mark out as a demand area, right, this is giving us a great opportunity for price to be gravitated back to it, respect it, and then take off. Okay, so you want to be looking for your buy opportunity on dollar CAD when it retraces into these what we call points of interest. All right, and from there, if you get some bull candles to show up, right, 1 or 2 bull candles, take the trade. All right, and from this demand area up to the previous week's high, that's 204 pips on dollar CAD. All right, guys, I'm trying to lace you up, but you got to be there, you know, to be in the mix with everything. So don't sleep on these opportunities. All right, I'm bullish on dollar CAD. All right, which doesn't line up with the dollar falling, but that's what it is. You go with what the chart gives you, not correlation. All right, correlation will fail you, and it's only until you get burned that you learn. All right, so bullish on dollar CAD. All right, dollar CHF. This is more bearish, right? Because I can see here we had a bit of a supply area. All right, and from that supply area breaking this low, we just started the retracement back up to that supply area. So unless we get above that supply area and then respect it as support, then we can be bullish on dollar CHF. But until then, guys, we are absolutely still bearish on dollar CHF to where it can, you know, play out like this. All right, so bearish on dollar CHF, again, different from dollar CAD, right? And now over to dollar JPY. So I'm selling most of my JPY pairs, but the dollar JPY here has gotten back to the level of supply that it created over here, right? A last bull candle before price goes and breaks a low, right? So then we make that new low and we start the retracement back up into the supply area. So if this is strong supply, it will reject price and price will begin to fall, which lines up with what I want to do with the J's, because I expect the JPY index to rise. Therefore, I'm expecting non-JPY base pairs to fall, and UJ is one of them. All right, so just need to, be patient and see how price reacts around this area before, getting into that sell, right? Because it may break above just to sweep or take out the previous week's high and then drop. All right, so just be very mindful of that. Okay, and again, can't go bullish on it until it breaks above this high. Again, respects this as support, and then show you some bulls. At that point, you can look to buy it from here up to this high, and you'll get over 450 pips easy. All right, I am bearish on dollar JPY. Over to pound odd, I am bullish. As you see, my team bought. There was a nice double top, right? I'm sorry, double bottom here, right? We had a change of character here. We retraced back, but we did not tap into demand when we retraced. That was what we call engineered liquidity. So price took off, made you believe that it was going to go and start making new higher highs, but it didn't, right? It came right back and then swept this liquidity and tapped into this demand and then took off, right? I had a buy limit here, but it was just a little bit below, so it didn't get activated. But boy, oh boy, if it did, right out the gate, from hitting my order, it went 161 pips in 3 hours. All right, but doesn't matter, right? We still know that price is going to rise, so we were able to get in once we had more confirmation of bulls to show up, and that's where we took the trade. So now what I expect for pound odd is to potentially tap this little fair value gap that it created. All right, and then from there we will take off to take out the previous week's high, and that's going to give us about 200 pips, maybe higher, just depending on how things go. Because looking at this from a weekly time frame, come on guys, y'all can see this is a major move right back to the upside, as this was a push up super. All of this was the retracement right back to where it took off before. So we're looking to take off again right from that area. And if we just get up to like this little area, that's 300 and some odd pips, right? Just to that very next candle that took, a few days. All right. But buying pound odd is definitely one of my go-to plays this week to, cash out. All right. So bullish on pound odd. All right. Moving over to pound CAD. Pound CAD also has a bullish opportunity on it. Okay, so we broke this structured high here, made a new high, and we retraced back to this demand area, guys. So I do expect price to just rise and potentially take out this high or this one on pound CAD. All right, I'm bullish. All right, pound CHF also bullish, mainly because we've been respecting this low, and the candles have started to push a little higher. Right, looking at it on a lower time frame, we can see that this higher low has begun to form, so we can go potentially make that higher high and just completely start a reversal on pound CHF. All right, so I am bullish. Pound JPY, I told you guys I'm bearish on most of the JPY pairs. Again, I can see pound JPY potentially getting up a little more into potentially this fair value gap or the supply area sitting here, right? It can do one of these numbers and then do that, right? But what I'm hoping for is it to respect this current fair value gap that it's in, all right? And then just start to drop on down all the way to the swing low. If it does, right, we're looking at a good 500 pips, guys, and y'all know GJ does not play. All right, so hopefully, like I said, we respect the current fair value gap is at right now. I don't know why it's making me twist my tongue, but if it does respect it and drop, then that's a quick 300 to 500 pips easily on GJ. All right, guys, I'm bearish. Over to pound New Zealand. All right, this is like pound odd, right? So we swept this low and we started getting rejection. This is a major demand area when we look left from a higher time frame. So there it is. You can see, right? Again, we took off from this area and started pushing, consolidated, and now we've retraced back to this area within this fair value gap, to be exact. And now we can definitely see price start to rise as we are at a low price right now. It's just that we haven't really gotten change of character from a higher time frame, but looking at a very lower time frame, we can see that we did get a change, right? As price is falling here, you can see right here was the last high this was the last high that actually broke this low, right? So then we got above that high just now, giving us the change, got a higher low, so we should go to make higher high and keep rising on pound New Zealand, which again is another really good play, as it will go and take out the previous week high for about 234 pips to the upside. I'm bullish on pound New Zealand. All right, silver. All right, so told my team, saw a selling opportunity on silver, but I blinked and I didn't call it, and it dropped crazy, right? This is what, 30% drop, something like that on silver, as my team was eating off the buys, but out of nowhere, right, kaboom. And this was caused by basically, I believe, Jerome being outed of the Federal Reserve, right? And Kevin Walsh, something like that, right? He's going to be the new Fed after Jerome's term is up, which I believe is in March or April, something like that. All right, so he's supposed to be more hawkish, if you will, on monetary or interest rates, and Jerome supposedly was not. Like, he was more I'm sorry, I think he's supposed to be more dovish, so wanting interest rates to go down, which will make the economy boom and what have you. And Jerome wasn't on that, supposedly, but it's politics, right? We won't dive into that. All you need to know in terms of the silver chart, guys, is that we had this major correction on silver. We tapped right into this demand area that you'll see better from a higher time frame. Right there it is, right? So all of this up movement that we were doing on silver, which took basically 20 days, all of that was mitigated in one day, guys. All right, a move that took 20 days got corrected in one day. That should tell you everything that you need to know about people taking their profits, or price just getting liquidated so that people could get in silver at a discounted price. All right, because this is where things took off the beginning of the year, right? January 8th, silver just did numbers, right? Parabolic move. And then here it is, January 30th, the end of the month, it corrects all of that entire move. So now it's definitely time to load up and buy silver. All right, so I would get in right away, right? And I would just hold that just like that, getting right back up to that high. So the same move that it took on the beginning of January, all the way up, right? It will right back in that area, right? A little higher, right, than here, but still it'll make that same move again. And who knows, it may take a day, right? The same way we got the push down in the day, this could happen in a day. So we can get into a buy on silver right out the gate Sunday, Monday, and then Monday, Tuesday, we can have this play out, right? Don't say it can't happen, because it showed you that it could on a Friday at that. All right, so just know silver is looking very good for a buy opportunity, guys. I am very bullish on silver. All right, moving over to gold, same MO, birds of a feather, flock together, people. All right, so here you want another position, right? You could probably get your little buy limit closer to the low, but no matter what, right, if you get in, we're gonna look to win. Okay, and this is textbook in terms of what price is expected to do. All right, big rise up, huge correction of that 100% retracement of this move. So now it's no choice but to kind of, keep pushing. Now, if it keeps dropping, guys, it's not expected. All right. Yes, there is little supply areas here that it can push up to and then continue dropping. But, if we're going to be real about it, if the central banks are buying up all the silver and gold because they're moving away from the fiat currency, why are you selling? You understand what I'm saying to you? Like, we got to move with the whales, all right? Because that's where the waves are, right? Nobody wants to swim against the current. Nobody wants to swim against the wave. So, guys, let's get with the big dogs and make some big moves. I am bullish, super bullish on gold. 700-point move. That's 7,000 pips. That's 7 bands on a standard lot, and it can happen within a day. All right, don't sleep on the beat, ladies and gents. Bullish on gold. All right, over to natural gas. I'm bullish also, but I expect a bit of a retracement right before we get that rise up. We just had a break of structure. We haven't quite made that new high just yet, no V shape. But once we do, right, I'm just looking for it to get lower. Therefore, I can get in at a discounted price, and then I will be buying natural gas. All right, so bullish on natural gas. Just wait for the pullback retracement correction. All right, moving over to oil, and I don't really know. All right, I'm mixed on oil right now because I do see that it can start to make a correction. All right, and it's giving double top vibes at the moment. So we could get a drop on oil. Maybe it'll sweep the high first before it drops. But I'm waiting to see what oil is going to do a little bit more before I get into it. All right. The buy worked out well, as I told you guys in previous watch lists, right? Hit my team's TP, and now, the correction is beginning, or the potential reversal. So, we just got to wait for it and be patient, and then it'll tell us what it wants to do. But for now, I would be bearish on gold. I'm on oil. All right. But we'll see. Moving over to SPY. All right. So for SPY, I'm undecided as well, right? I can see SPY rising up to take the liquidity of this high and then tap into the supply, maybe even sweeping last week's high before falling, right? But I do see some sort of selling potential here, but from these highs, right? From supply or from the previous week high, I want to sell, but where it is now, it looks more bullish, or at least that it'll give some sort of sweep before it gives that drop, guys. So I'm temporarily bullish on SPY, but I'm overall looking for a major drop to happen on SPY. All right, moving over to NAS. Same kind of thing. We did kind of get like a bit of a break off this major candle here. Got a retracement right back to where we broke, dropped again. But you can see like now we're in, a bit of a support level, if you will, okay, where we can potentially start to rise from that, okay? And yeah, I mean, from the break, it's all text, but we got the break, made the new high, we've retraced back to our point of interest, which is demand, right? We swept everything, and now we can definitely go higher. Maybe it'll take out the previous week low before doing that, but from the way that it's respecting this area, it definitely looks like it could reverse and start to rise up before any potential selling up. All right, so I'm bullish initially on NAS. All right, and then when it gets to this area, I'm looking to sell it back down. All right, but time will tell, because we may break above that, but again, it just all depends. All right, so bullish then bearish on NAS. Last but not least, US 30, and same thing, because it's very, very choppy, very, very mixed. It's not clean whatsoever. So, don't really know what you're going to get out of it. All right, I did sell it, but now it's just so choppy, that I can't really tell. And if you look at it from a daily standpoint, all right, all of this is ugly, right? And from here, here's all last week, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? It was just all over the place. So you couldn't really make, hey or nay about it. And, it's kind of still looking that way right now, to where you can't really figure it out. All right. So, I'll take my, when the market opens, I'll just close this out. or maybe, you know, put my stop loss and profit in to see if it'll continue to fall. But honestly, no clue on what US 30 is going to do this week. So I'll just have to wait and see, you know, what it shows me, and then from there I'll bust a move. All right. So again, guys, good setups, right? Pound AUD, pound New Zealand, right? These JPY pairs, you know, and potentially gold and silver just getting right back up like it never got knocked down. All right. So you got opportunity, right, to make something happen. All right. Make sure you do so. You know, make sure to like and subscribe, right? Tell a friend and tell a friend. Y'all get on in, and you know, we'll get it in. All right. But it's your boy. I'm out. Peace.
Wanna get money? Wanna get paid? That's Forex. Like a sensei, then you know you gotta come and swing my way. And if you wanna fast forward, hit replay.